Hey guys, Stock Saturday, and it's been a fairly interesting week. We've had a fair bit of news, and portfolio is up about £8,000 on the stocks. But I withdrew £6,500 of my cash because the dreaded tax bill is basically due, and I got my figure through. So it's about just over £6,000 with a £250, I think, fee to the accountants. So had to pay that with something. I was sort of thinking I may have spent this cash by now and be possibly selling the emerging markets ETF or sort of something similar to pay for that bill. But with the cash still being there, I just thought I would withdraw that and sort of leave a little bit there for later on. So yeah, the sort of stocks have done reasonably well this week. A few sort of outliers, Rio Tinto and sort of anything mining in iron ore and sort of copper doing reasonably well. That's up sort of about 3 or 4% for the week. So pretty good. Iron ore sort of looks like it's bottomed, potentially sort of on the China reopening could be sort of pushing up demand. But yeah, sort of from the 80s a little while ago, only a couple of months ago, to 118 now. So that's looking good for them and Vale. Copper as well, sort of not quite as stark a move, but sort of trickling up. So that's looking pretty good, up to sort of 390, and then as you see on the 5 year, if it can sort of stay around there or above, then that's very positive. But Glencore would be getting a sort of decent move off the gain in copper, but they're under pressure sort of over the coal side. So that's had a sort of bit of an effect this week. There's sort of been a lot of allegations that they're not shutting it down as fast as they should be and profiteering out of it basically. So that's down. What is that? About 7%, which is not too bad really. I guess it's an accusation they're making too much profit, which is not the end of the world. If you look at sort of coal prices, it's basically still almost at all-time highs, even though sort of energy situation has improved from what we thought it was going to be at the moment with the sort of mild winter. But coal still sort of very much in demand, with sort of $100 before COVID, before the war, sort of 100 coming down to in the 50s in 2019, and is now up to $400. So yeah, that's a little bit of a drop for the week, but nothing I'd be particularly worried about. And I still like their mix of sort of copper, zinc, and a little bit of coal, unfortunately, and nickel. So yeah, I'm still pretty happy with Glencore. One that I have been sort of fairly bullish on and over the last year, and sort of less so at the moment, is Samsung. They've announced their fourth quarter earnings guidance, and it looks sort of pretty horrendous. I've always been bullish on them, more so for the semiconductor side, and they sort of have a stake in the battery side. But obviously, you have to remember a huge part of Samsung is the sort of consumer electronics side, phones and TVs and all sorts of appliances and that sort of thing. And yeah, that's not looking so good. So consolidated operating profit is the sort of metric they like to look at. Sort of 4.3 trillion won for the quarter, and that's sort of lowest it's been since I believe 2014. I was reading. Q1 this year not looking sort of particularly better. Yeah, so that's not looking too good, and yet the stock, even on this news, has rocketed up. Although this was sort of in the last day, I'll see what happens on Monday. But if it sort of stays where it is, the sort of prospects aren't looking all that good, really. They do have a huge net cash position, sort of $96 billion, I think. They've been sort of building that up, paying off some debt. They didn't have a lot of debt in the beginning, to be honest, but they've been paying that off. They don't show the analyst expectations on that, but the sort of earnings expectations for this year have come way, way down. And yeah, just not looking all that good, really. And sort of from when I sort of bought earlier last year, and then sort of averaged down in the 800s, because I thought it was sort of a reasonable prospect there. And now forecasts have got a hell of a lot worse, and it's sort of come up to in the thousands again, and even this week, as that report come out, has sort of risen up about 5%. So yeah, I'm just thinking of maybe dipping out of the semiconductor side for, or on Samsung at least, for a little while. As I say, Samsung, obviously a big part of it is not semiconductors. So yeah, I'm not really wanting to be in a sort of consumer electronics phone manufacturer at the moment with a semiconductor side. So yeah, unfortunate, but I think I may be selling out of this on Monday if it sort of doesn't have a huge drop on this profit warning. So we'll see. And then moving over to China, Prosus, obviously a Dutch company, but is essentially tied to Tencent still, even though they are selling down their stake. But yeah, they've seen sort of 12-13% move up. Tencent doing pretty well. Sort of, again, China reopening, sort of slight easing of pressure on the tech sector. They've, as part of the sort of revised presidential team for President Xi, sort of appointed one or two members that were sort of pretty bullish on their homegrown tech companies before, and people are sort of seeing that as a good sign as well, I think. So they've all been doing really well. Alibaba, I think the biggest move, sort of up about 23-24% for the week, and Baidu up, yeah, about sort of 10-15%. So my Chinese tech section has now gone profitable, and this isn't even including the FX gains as well. So they are actually more green than they're showing. So yeah, China bet so far going pretty well. It's not as if I even averaged down particularly. I haven't sort of bought these in quite a while, but interesting to have a reasonable green in sort of times like these. Potential sort of global, more of a Western recession, people are thinking. China sort of obviously coming out of lockdowns and that sort of thing could potentially be going their own separate way in terms of sort of GDP rather than the rest of the world, maybe, or more the Western world having a potential small recession is what a lot of people are thinking this year. So that'll be interesting to watch. One that I appear to have got wrong, certainly, is Silvergate Capital. I was aware that their sort of deposits were coming down quite a lot. I maybe thought they hadn't come down quite as much as they have. $11.9 billion to $3.8 billion on December the 31st. Yeah, I was sort of expecting, that to come down by half maybe, and yeah, people are sort of calling this a run on the bank, but it doesn't appear to have been in that sort of run down from basically a 66% withdrawal. They've processed all of those withdrawals and the bank is fine, where sort of your traditional fractional reserve banks, normally they would be lending out 10 times, what they have in deposits. And yeah, if you had anything like a 66% withdrawal of funds, I believe most banks would be bust. And Silvergate are operating fine. So kind of see this as a positive more than a negative. It's sort of whether those funds are going to return with their sort of Silvergate exchange network being one of the only companies that do this now. Their sort of competitor Signature Bank has sort of largely pulled away from this. So yeah, if they could scoop up a bit of that business, and maybe sort of when the FTX saga calms down, then maybe get some of these deposits back, that would be better. But so yeah, the stock sort of dropped 38% on this news. I think it was made a little bit worse by, it did actually go up about 25% the previous day, with sort of Bitcoin going up and just sort of NASDAQ stocks, tech stocks all going up. So yeah, maybe should have, it did go positive for me. Sort of I've been in the red basically since I bought it, and it did go about 3% positive on that sort of 25% move. So I maybe should have, don't know, taken profit. And you can always think like that, can't you? That's silly to think about, really. But yeah, so I've gone back into a sort of 30 or 40% loss, which is a shame. And just to make it worse, I sold Argo Blockchain to sort of double down on this, and Argo Blockchain is now 4 times what I sold it at. Appears to be appalling value now compared to the other miners, in my opinion. But yeah, could have got a lot more money out of that. And just looking at the news for the week, we've had sort of a fair bit of noticeable news. European preliminary inflation numbers coming out. So these will be revised, but wonder how sort of much they will change, because they were quite wrong from expectations. The core CPI monthly figure was forecast to be slightly negative, and that was positive 0.6%. So that's not particularly good. Could signal sort of more rate rises. EU have been sort of behind on their rate rises. But the ordinary CPI, they were forecasting a 0.8% monthly move, and that was negative 0.3. So yeah, bit off on the analyst expectations there. Bit of sleep at the wheel, possibly. Basically got these two round the wrong way. So that wasn't very good. But then we had the non-farm payrolls and sort of all the other payroll data to go with it on Friday, which is always big news. And the sort of main non-farm payrolls number was expected to drop from 256,000 new jobs to 200,000, and that come in at 223, so a bit better than expected. But also unemployment was expected to go up from 3.6% to 3.7%, and it dropped to 3.5%. So far the rate rises sort of haven't spiked unemployment up. I think that's almost what Powell is kind of hoping for, to sort of kill the wage price spiral. So yeah, positive job number, and people not really losing their jobs, despite sort of all the headlines you keep reading. Amazon sacking 18,000 employees. Yeah, it's not millions and millions, and the actual sort of unemployment numbers are still looking positive. But then right at the end, we did have, stocks sort of took a little bit of a tumble on that news, thinking there's more rate rises coming. But then we did have the ISM non-manufacturing PMI. So this is a sort of more of a forward indicator on how things are going. That was anything basically above 50 is sort of indicating expansion of the industries and markets in America, and anything under 50 is contracting. And that was expected to be sort of slightly down from last month, but still very positive at 55, and it was just under 50, so quite a big miss there. So yeah, people sort of slightly more positive, I guess, after that there won't be huge rate hikes, and we just really need to see the US inflation numbers next week to sort of get a better indication. So a bit hit and miss on the news, and yeah, that's the portfolio for the week, really. It was sort of a fairly mixed bag of stocks, sort of some doing well, some not doing so well. Tech stocks doing pretty well, especially on the Friday. Broadcom having a nice move up, still 32% in the green on that, with sort of a load of dividends to add on top of that, not included, and a positive move on the FX. So yeah, one or two sort of moves that I'm thinking of making. Also looking at Himax Technologies. They've sort of got similar semiconductor issues to Samsung, sort of seeing less demand, and they also have an issue that they export quite a lot to China, and they're sort of being pressured to stop sending products to China, basically, along with all the other semiconductor companies. And they've sort of held up reasonably well. Again, was sort of $5 not so long ago, and now sort of $6.84. So I'm just kind of maybe expecting a little bit of a drop sort of in the next quarter, and sort of thinking of lightening the load and maybe buying the dip. It's a little bit timing the market, obviously, which should try and avoid, but yeah, I'm just sort of not seeing what I would expect to be seeing. So yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and like and subscribe. See you soon.